My name is Jonathan Becker, and this is Revealed Through Masking, a podcast created with the intention of sharing what I've learned over the past 3 decades as a master mask maker, master teacher of performance, performer, director, maker, and guy going through a never-ending existential crisis. This podcast is intended for actors, dancers, teachers, mask makers, sculptors, theater creators, storytellers, poets, artists from all walks of life, and those who like looking beneath the surface, or better said, those who wish to unmask the world around them to gain insight. Hopefully, I'll be able to share clearly with you some valuable information and the poetry that has led me to a greater understanding. The mask, of course, will always be the vehicle from which those understandings come. Stillness Unmasked, the Expressive Form. When I was a kid, I used to spend part of every summer in northern Wisconsin camping on land my grandfather had purchased, planted trees on, and bequeathed to my uncle. The property was sandwiched between the Hiawatha National Forest and the Red Cliff Reservation. The location was a forested paradise a mile inland from the shores of the Great Lake Superior. What I remember of those times are the moments of stillness juxtaposed against the constant movement of the natural world. There was one moment in particular I remember. It was probably when I was 12 or 13. It was late into the evening. Everyone was sitting around the campfire. The sky was clear. There were thousands of stars visible. The campfire was situated a little ways into a field that opened between the trees of the forest, a clearing, if you will. My uncle was there, my mom, my dad, my older brother, my 2 younger cousins, my aunt, and a few friends of the family who were also camping with us. We were sitting quietly around the campfire that evening. Conversation would happen in small, quiet bursts, but mostly we sat and watched the flames dance and listened to the crackling fire play against the sounds of the trees, which every now and again would sway slightly in the soft breeze. For the most part, it was calm, and there was a stillness in the night that felt peaceful and alive. Off in the distance, the sound of a night owl could be heard calling through the forest. My uncle, the naturalist, a man who lived his life creating harmony between people and the natural world, a man who believed that one should at least once a day put one's hand on the earth to feel its heartbeat, noticed the call first. He asked everyone to be quiet and listen. Everyone grew quiet and reached into the stillness of the night, and we heard the call of the owl. "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." My uncle called back, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." His ability to imitate the sounds of animals so as to strike up conversations was uncanny. We sat in stillness and quiet, listening. The owl called out again, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." My uncle replied, "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." There was stillness. The owl called out again, but this time we noticed the sound was closer to us. My uncle called out, and the owl replied. This time it was again closer. My uncle called, and the call was returned. He called out, and the song was reciprocated. Each time, closer and closer, the owl came through the night. "Hoo, hoo, hoo, hoo." Then silence. The night grew still. The movement in the trees subsided. There was only the quiet sounds of a small fire, the light of the stars, and the glow of burning embers. The stillness was then punctuated by a silent, winged shadow gliding across the night directly above our heads. The shadow came suddenly and disappeared as quickly into the forest behind us. The stillness of the night was now filled with a sense of majestic beauty, peace, and a silent, joy-filled appreciation for the world we were in. It is the many moments like this in my life that have highlighted the rhythms and tempos of the passing world around me. These rhythms and tempos have always been revealed and framed by stillness, either a physical stillness or an inner stillness. In many ways, they are a metaphor for the theater mask, the expressive form of a mask for performance is rhythm, tempo, a musical interchange between the lines and planes of the mask with the space around it. All of this captured, surrounded, framed by the stillness of a rigid form. The elements are like the individual notes in music. It is the stillness between the notes in which the music is heard and understood. In this podcast, I will address the questions: what is expressive form? What does it mean a mask plays? How does one go about creating a successful mask for performance? What does rhythm, tempo, or musicality have to do with expressive form? What does space have to do with it all? What materials are best for making theater masks? I want to start by saying that the theater mask, the mask intended for performance, is created so as to be the driving force of the theatrical event. It is a sophisticated, living, dynamic entity that is story itself. The mask for performance is much more than a costume. But what does this mean? Let's address the idea of expressive form. Expressive form, in the context of our exploration, will be defined as a form or sculpture that either in stillness appears to move, or when in movement appears to change expression. Expressive form arrives when there is a just relationship between the lines and planes of the form or mask. What is a just relationship? This is a difficult question to answer since it's something that must be seen and experienced. A just relationship creates a dynamic exchange through space that can be sensed. A just relationship is created when one line becomes the next, when one plane becomes the next, and in the moments of transition, there is a clear beginning, middle, and end of the lines and planes. A just relationship arrives when the space between and around the lines and planes becomes filled with an energy of exchange. A just relationship arrives when the form allows for light to play on all surfaces, and the play of light has been well defined and guided by the lines and planes of the mask. A just relationship arrives when the stillness of a form appears to be in movement. One must keep in mind that every line and plane has expressive quality, the potential to play. The sophisticated masks for performance possess a stillness of form that allows for the decisions of the mask maker to come to life clearly, to either express dissonance or harmony, much like in music. There must be a clear choice made by the sculptor before beginning. In the choice must be a singularity of perspective through which the emerging mask will see the world. The specificity intends a form that, like a well-written piece of music, is in tune with itself and has no extraneous or unnecessary noise. In order to have an understanding of how to create a just form, the sculptor must have knowledge and understanding of the body as text, the movement and rhythms of human emotions, the dynamics associated with human passions. Understanding dynamics means to know how a passion moves, its rhythmic life, the forms it takes, and how these exist in the human body, how they affect the musculature, and where they tend to be physically centered. While at the Lecoq School in Paris, I took what was called the Laboratoire d'études du mouvement, the LEM course. This was a course taught by both Lecoq and an architect professor. We would spend one night a week with Lecoq exploring color, the passions, and materials through movement, and the second night sketching, painting, building what we had discovered through the movement explorations. It was in this course that I learned how to create a successful form that could play or be played. So, for example, we explored through movement the human passions. And the list of passions we explored was pride, arrogance, hate, love, calm, anger, envy, laughter, jealousy, desire, lust, joy, sadness, vanity, anguish, fear, and awe. We would take each one and explore it as if it were a form, and then we would attempt to define its movement qualities. Was it quick or slow? Was it direct or indirect? Was it bound or free? Was it heavy or light? Did it move into the floor or out of it? Was it more forward or was the movement one of retreat? Was it expansive or did it contract? How much space did it take up? And so on. In my personal explorations, this is what I found to be true for me. Pride has a movement that rises straight up. Its lines are straight and angular. Arrogance moves up and then forward. The lines are also straight and angular. Hate collapses inward and is very angular and sharp. Love has sweeping curves punctuated by violent edges. Calm is a wide, slow, curving and spiraling movement. It is very light. Anger expands outward with hard angles and short, sharp curves. Envy curves backward with an occasional straight line. Laughter is very percussive and is angular. Jealousy curves forward with an occasional sharp line and strong angle. Desire is movement spiraling up and forward. Joy is explosive, upward and spiraling. Sadness down and curved. Vanity up and backward in a curving motion. Anguish collapses in on itself in a combination of curves and straight lines. Fear moves back and upward in short, sharp lines. This list represents a very limited explanation and sharing of the discoveries made. It is the understanding of these passions, the forms they take on, their movement qualities, and their rhythmic life that provides a foundation upon which one can make clear choices in the creation of the masks. The neutral mask, as a being that has no past, and therefore no reason to respond from an emotional or passionate point of view to discoveries made, must be a form that represents a calm and expansive stillness only. The neutral mask is in many ways the most sophisticated and difficult to create. It is as difficult to achieve in the sculpting as it is in its realization for the student performer. The larval masks are about pure rhythmic undeveloped form. There isn't a clear or singular perspective reflected in the form of the mask. The mask is rather just a rhythmic form intended to be played with and invented from. The undeveloped nature of the form and the disproportionate match the mask is to the body reflects a being in its early stages of development, and thus action takes on childlike naivete. The character masks and the character half masks are where direct application of how to manifest a singular perspective based on a long history come into play. Here the forms are directly related to the explorations in the LEM, and those explorations are applied to the sculpting process. In the character masks, the understandings are implemented so that the passions are clearly present in the form, unlike with the larvals where they are muted or not yet developed or in the neutral mask where they must be absent altogether. To provide an example of how this manifests, let us take a mask that is primarily based in fear. According to my explorations, reflected in the aforementioned list, fear's movement qualities are a movement that is back and upward in short, sharp lines. The movement and the lines are direct. The form is collapsing, jagged, heavy, and bound. The sensation and the breath are centered in the chest. It is quick. So when creating a mask based in fear, the form, its lines and planes must reflect the listed qualities. If the mask being created is seeing the world from solely a place of fear, then the mask is created to have only the listed qualities and no others. If the mask were a combination of, say, jealousy and fear, then the qualities associated with jealousy would be added to those of fear so as to create a specific form related to this combination. The combinations are endless. The importance is in specificity and singularity. Every mask is capable of every emotional state, but it must have a clear foundation upon which to depart. The form must see the world from a singular perspective if we're going to use the terminology from previous podcasts. One could say the mask is the hut from under which we see the world. As I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, I would address the materials that masks are commonly made out of. The question that is often asked is, does it matter what material a mask is made out of if you want it to play? The answer to this is yes, except when it's no, or no, except when it does. Since the reason a mask plays is based on the success or sophistication of the sculptural form, the material it is made out of can become of secondary importance. This said, organic materials such as leather are to a certain degree alive. They have a vibrancy that, say, plastic does not. It is possible, however, to create very successful masks out of plastic materials. Across cultures, masks are made out of wood, leather, metal, fabric, paper, plastic, and rubber composites. And of course, most masks for performance combine many materials. Regardless of the material, it is the maker's intent to create a mask that appears to be alive and that actually has a life of its own. The reach is to create movement and stillness. It is then the action brought to the mask by the actor that brings it to life. A mask for performance is a poem that needs soulful, silent movement in order to be heard. Eckhart Tolle wrote, "Stillness is your essential nature." What is stillness? The inner space or awareness in which the words on this page are being perceived and become thoughts. Without that awareness, there would be no perception, no thoughts, no world. You are that awareness disguised as a person. The mask reflects this statement. The mask creates an inner space with a specific manner of awareness. Through this space, this specific inner space, say the stillness of fear, words become thoughts, and thoughts become actions. The specific perceptions of this mask then become the thoughts, and the world the mask sees and therefore creates. It is from this space of awareness the mask is born. We can see in this last statement that the mask is what it sees and sees what it is. This reflects the neutral mask exercise in which, when the mask sees the ocean, it is the ocean. It breathes it in and it breathes it out. It takes on its qualities and it reflects its qualities. We all understand fear. We all understand jealousy. Bruce Lee said, "The stillness in stillness is not the real stillness. Only when there is stillness in movement does the universal rhythm manifest. It is the stillness of the world and ourselves in it that allow us to deeply experience life. Without stillness, the story of the owl could never have been told because the experience of the event would never have taken place. The mask is movement in stillness. In bringing it to life, it then becomes stillness in movement. There you have it, another episode of Revealed Through Masking. If you're interested in acquiring a mask, visit theater-masks.com. The studio can be found at www.theater-masks.com. If you're interested in a workshop, visit the North American Laboratory for the Performing Arts. The schedule for current workshops can be seen online at www.thenalpa.com. That's THENALPA.com. Special thanks to Purple Planet Music for providing the music in the podcast, and a special thanks to my mom, because one should always thank their mother. Thanks, Mom.